The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome, this is Jeff the Big Hairy Dog. We have 9 people signed up. I see Rachel out there. So far, that's all we have. So we'll give it a minute here. It's called 3 minutes till, so I guess, we're a little bit ahead of the game. Big Hairy Dog, and this is about version 8 Retail Pro reports. I encourage questions, so if you have a question, you can throw it in the chat, or you can just talk if you have a microphone, or if you're on the phone. I've unmuted everybody. Unless you're really nosy, I won't remute anybody. That's the agenda. I have it on the screen. Just took a little screenshot and made it nice and easy for us to see. So we're going to buzz through some basics of V8 reports. If anyone has a particular goal that they're looking for or something they want to achieve, feel free to throw it in the chat or speak up as we go. I guess we'll get started here. So we're going to dive into report types first. Let's just back up and make sure everybody knows how to get there, which is just analysis on the main menu of Retail Pro. This is version 8, analysis reports, right? That would launch the reports menu, which I already have open, so pop back in there. Our report types, let's just cover those real fast to make sure we know what the purpose of each report area is, because they have very specific purposes. So we'll start at the top. Journals. Journals are a list of transactions. It's the best way to describe them. So if I run a sales journal, do I even have a sales journal in here? Let's just go down and find one. Here's the sales journal right here. So if I run a sales journal for a given period of time, I'm going to see a list of transactions. So a store and a date and a time and a transaction number, receipt numbers on the left there. Now, if I filter that journal for an item in inventory or a department or something, I would still see a list of transactions, but they would be transactions that had that item on it, right? I would not see the total sales for that item. I could see the total sales for the transactions that have that item on it. Does that make sense to everybody? So a journal, whether it's a PO journal or whether it's a receiving journal or whether it's a sales journal or a sales order journal or a transfer journal, it's always a list of transactions. So, good examples of why I would run a journal would be somebody discounted something and I want to know who it was, so I could filter for all transactions that have that item on it and show a discount, right? That would be a great way to research an audit trail and find that receipt. If accounting said, hey, I need to see all receivings from vendor XYZ for the month of August, again, receiving journal, perfect, right? So we'll get deeper into those in a bit. Let's just stay on task here, right? So let's go down to merchandise and let's talk about merchandise. I don't see any questions yet. That's fine. So merchandise report is and my menus, I have to apologize, they're a little cloudy. They've got junk in them. But a merchandise report is a multi-data type report. So it is about items, about merchandise. So just as a journal must see a transaction, it's kind of a requirement of a journal, this one cannot see the transaction. This one can see on hand, and it can see sold, and it could see on order, all in one report. So obviously we couldn't list every receipt number and every purchase order number at the same time, right? That'd be a mess, is what it'd be. So merchandise report is a multi-data type report. It allows you to see up to 16 different data types, which you get to define what they are and what their range is. So There's a lot of really cool stuff you could do with the merchandise report, and we can look at that too, but let's just keep moving down the list, right? Summaries are probably the meat and potatoes here of reports, right? If you're running a report, it's probably a summary. Summaries are lean, they're fast, they're accurate, very powerful reports. Now, journals and summaries both are kind of one-trick ponies. You can run a journal or a summary only on one given area. I can run a sales journal or a sales summary, or I could run an on-hand summary. Couldn't run an on-hand journal, there's no transactions. But I could run a receiving summary, or I could run a receiving journal. Does that make sense? Of course, a merchandise report, I could run on-hand, sales, and receiving all in one report. I just couldn't see what transactions they were on. So the last little area there is, I don't know, I think it's a catch-all for the stuff they just didn't know where to put, right? Like a list of customers, a list of departments, a list of vendors, a list of employees. Mostly this is used for customer, like database mining. If I want to filter a list of customers that meet a certain criteria, this is a good way to do that. You can also just export them right out of the screen though, so, you know, kind of on the edge there, right? All right, any questions so far? Looks like we're still good. So creating reports, let's talk about creating reports. There's some basics of creating reports that we certainly have to understand. And in this second thing in the list here, layout and sort, that's really a critical function. Let's go take a look at that. Let's take something simple here. Let's go in and say, all right, here's your basic department summary, right? Pretty simple. Let's click edit on the top here. So on the sidebar menu, we have layout here on the top and sort down here, right? They do very different things. Sort, I mean, honestly, when I first looked at that, I thought, oh, it alphabetizes the stuff, right? I mean, it sorts them so the day is on top and then Z is on the bottom. And that is what most people immediately go to. It sort of screams that just in the name sort, right? But sort is that, but that's the secondary function of sort. The first and primary function of sort is actually level of detail or grouping. It identifies the level that we're reporting on. That's what it does. So sort may be the most important function here in designing a report. If you can't get your sort right, you can't, you got the wrong kind of report. Just stop right there. So in earlier versions of Retail Pro, they sort in the layout were one function. They were combined together into one button. They didn't split them out. But that didn't work either, because the way you want to drill down into the data is not necessarily the way you want it to present on the page. Nice. Going for the backup button here, and I hit the minimize button. Let's hop down to an item summary for a second. Let's just toy around with that. Let's click edit on this one. So in this one here, my drill down, when I'm drilling down to see my items, I actually would like them grouped by department, and then I'd like them grouped by vendor within that department, and then by the style and the color and the size, right? Now, just in case I screwed up, I entered it twice, right? I may want item number to be in this drill down. It kind of ensures that I didn't screw up, right? There's another value we can also use for that too. Let's see if I can even find it here. It's the item SID is what I'm thinking about. But right, so the item SID, and be careful with this, the mouse, it becomes the big blue thing. But the item SID, just so we all are on the same page, is a system ID. So the SID is the ultimate record keeper, and the SID is what governs like whether you have a unique item or not. So now you're probably thinking, hey, you can only put one description on an item at a time. I mean, if it's in inventory and it's got a description and it's got an item number, that ought to be enough. Except that item numbers can have more than one life. They can live through their life as an item. We can clean house on that item. We can then redeploy that item number, and it could have a new life now, right? So in the past, it could have been something else, right? But if you clean house on it, when you clean house on it, it removed the system ID, and then when it was assigned a new value, a new random SID was generated. So that becomes the ultimate tracking mechanism, shall we say, right? So anyway, that's our drill down, right? That's the way that we're getting into the data. Now let's go over to layout here. And in layout, I would like item number in here. So I'm going to go find some item number stuff here. But I don't want to put item number like right here. That's where it is in my drill down, right? But at that point in the data, I want to see the quantity sold next to the size. So I'm just going to drag this up to the top. I just put it on the left-hand margin here. I mean, if I need it, it's there, right? I can look at it and I can go see it if I want to see it. But I don't know that I necessarily need to have it there in the middle of the data, if that makes sense. All right, so let's see if this works, right? So let's go print, and let's just say, wow, we got to pick a range, don't we? So, well, I'll just go back in time. I got a little data like from last year, I think. So we'll just fire off an older date range and see what that does, right? And it gives us a nice sales report. And item number is on the left, right? So it's still working. Now, little subtleties here. Let's zoom in a little bit because it's kind of hard for me to see anyway. Probably is for you guys too. Like when we get into this data, like these two black ones, the large one's coming before the medium one, right? Which technically, if we're sorting by size, L comes before M in the alphabet, and that is technically correct, right? So I'm going to back up, and do you want to save this? No, I don't. I'm going to go back to the sort. I'm going to reverse these two and put item number on top. Why? Well, because when we input our data in a style grid and we populate them, we typically populate them by color, by size, small, medium, large, extra large. So as we populate the grids, it writes the SKUs in the order we populate them. So typically the item number assigned to a small would be lower than the item number assigned to the medium, which would be lower than the item number assigned to the large. You get where I'm going, right? So let's just try it, see if it works. I mean, this isn't my data. I don't even know if this is going to work, but we're going to try it because that's what we do, right? Let's say okay, and let's zoom in a little bit because I'm not really into that much pain. Yeah, so now the black medium comes before the black large. You see that? And in fact, if we go all the way to the left here, 120761 is the medium, 120762 is the large. So yeah, if you're doing proper data input, you're going to enter items natively. The SKUs will be assigned, you know, not necessarily sequentially, right? I mean, there could be gaps in what rows are available in your inventory. But the point is that the SKU assigned to the medium will be lower than the SKU assigned to the large. So it's a handy little tidbit. So so sort is critical. We're gonna back out of this, and we're not gonna save our changes. We don't really care. And we're gonna go. I'm gonna go play with this. I'm gonna deliberately make a sorting error. I want to fall on my face and be silly here. So let's take this out of here. So I'm taking department code out. And what you need is what never when you need it is not there, right? So there we go. So I'm going to put vendor code in. Now, I hope everybody sees that I'm not sorting to vendor codes. I'm still sorting to department codes. This is a report 101 error, man. This is like, I've seen this dozens of times. It always results in a bad thing. So I want everybody to get why it's a bad thing. So let's just go ahead and fire it off. Let's say print and put our date range in. Now, there's a thing called non-repeat mode, right? So when an item is repeated, it is suppressed. So you see that GIII there, I guess that's G3. It's actually on the report twice, right? But so is Majestic there, right? It's on the top line and it's on the fifth line and it's on the seventh line. So it's like it's all over the place, right? So what happens when we ask it to print a vendor code and we have not sorted to that level? What does the report do? Well, it fills this layout requirement, right? It grabs the first vendor code it finds in that data set, throws it on the report. That's what we ask it to do, right? So sort and layout have to have the same descriptive elements. What does that mean? What the hell did I just say there, right? When you're in sort, for instance, notice there is no extended price in here. Now there is a price. There's a price right there, right? But is that price, is that a value or is it descriptive? Does it describe the item that we're reporting on, or is it a result of running the report, a value that must be calculated for a given time period? Well, that is the unit price that describes the item, right? That's not the extended price. I'd have to have a quantity and multiply by that number to get the extension, right? So in fact, unit price is a description. It's not, we would never total unit price. That would be weird. So sort only has descriptive components. Of course, layout has descriptive components, and of course it has value components, right? I said down here, extended tax dollars, extended price plus tax, extended discount. These are all values. We have to run the report before we can find out what those are, right? So for the descriptive components in the report, right, everything that's above the line that describes our target set of data, right, our level of detail, they have to be the same in the sort and the layout. They do not have to be in the same order, right? That's the whole point of them being separate functions. I know I get on the soapbox on this one. You guys can slap me around. I have no problem with that. But I've seen this over and over. I had a tech who flew to San Diego to fix this problem. And the worst part was I told them how to fix it before they had the tech go on site. And then on site, the tech called me and said, how do I fix the problem? And I said, yeah, you just add this to the sort. It's fixed. And he said, all right, thanks. He did it, fixed the problem, flew home. So this is a critical piece. This can really mess with you. This will lie to you, right? So let's go put this back in here and see the lie as it happens. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back now and get our DCS. Where's our DCS here? We'll just let the computer do the work here, right? That's right there on top, of course. Kind of embarrassing. All right, so I put the department code back. Now our sort is to DCS. Our layout has DCS. Again, the vendor code we're asking to print is going to be erroneous, right? Because we're not sorting to that level, which we'll do in a minute here to make sure we understand what that means. But let's just start with one piece at a time. So now in this report, the department codes are true. That's what we're grouping by. That's what the sort at the top left corner says. We're grouping it, sorting it by DCS. So this DCS is that sales number. It just so happens that in the second and third department, the first vendor that we happen to run across happened to be the same vendor, right? So now let's step out one step further. Let's go to sort, and let's actually add the vendor code to the sort now, right? So now we're saying group it first by the category and then by vendor. And of course, if we wanted to be really nice to ourselves, we would want to go to totals and say, add a subtotal, PLIN by DCS, not by vendor. We'll talk about that in a second too. And let's go back and try and run this same report, same basic set of data, one more time. Third time's a charm, right? Now that's actually correct. Now the subtotal line, you see that first subtotal line? I don't know if you can see that. I lowered my resolution to try and make it easier for everybody to see. But there's that first department, and if we come down to the bottom, there's that 1497 we saw a minute ago. But now it's a subtotal, right? Because there is in fact quite a lot of vendors in a given department. And if we scroll down a little further, we can see that in fact, in the second and third department, the G3 there, the GIII, is in fact in the data set. And we know from the fact that the third one has 41 of those pieces being sold, that it was in fact the first item that the data hits when it rolls through and starts reading the data happens to belong to that vendor. It makes sense because it's got 41 in the third one and 12 in the top one, so odds were with it that it was going to be the first one, right? So that's why it was showing up twice in that other report. But that other report was erroneous. When you sort by one thing and you print something else, you are asking the system to lie to you. So don't do that. And we can cancel this. We don't need to save this. Just let it go back to being a regular old department code report, right? That's all we're doing there. So sort and layout, very critical. I can't even emphasize that enough, how important that is. So we should finish that whole concept though while we're there. We should just get back down a little deeper and take a look at the rest of this stuff. So sort and layout we kind of have a handle on, right, on what that is. Totals. So if we're subtotaling here, let's go back to sort here. Yeah, let's go back to our other example. I think it'll be easy. There's too much going on in that report. Let's just go back and tweak this one again real fast, and we'll ask the trick question. That's my job, right? So we're going to say we're grouping it by well, we haven't done that yet, but we're printing department and we're printing vendor code, and we're going to add vendor code to the grouping, right? Now what I'm doing there is I'm typing in vendor and I get a few characters in and I press enter. I don't grab the mouse. I want to grab the mouse. My hand wants to go to the mouse every time, but that's not how V8 report works. It's easier to just press enter. It highlights the item, then you grab the mouse and double click it and it's above the line, right? So if I'm going to subtotal here, why wouldn't I subtotal by vendor code? Anybody have any ideas on that? I mean, if it's there, I shouldn't have to go above the line. That's the question I'm going to ask. And of course, you know the trick, just a trick question. I already told you it was. So you know that the answer is no. It does not go above the line. And the reason it does not go above the line is it's the smallest level of detail. It is the target level of detail. It's the lowest level of detail, which means that if you subtotal by it, every single line is going to get a subtotal. I mean, it's not wrong to do it. It's just obnoxious, right? Doesn't make any sense. So now if we scroll down to where that department code ends, what are we going to see? We're going to see two subtotals. It doesn't even end on this first page, does it? Okay. Yeah, that's pretty obnoxious. All right, so see right here, you can see the 1497 again, kind of. Let me just bring this up a little bit. You see the 1497 there. And then see on the right-hand side, we got two S's, subtotal for that last vendor, and then the subtotal for the department, which is exactly what we asked for. It's just that subtotaling by the lowest level of detail is redundant. It's like one item, subtotal, one item, subtotal, one item, subtotal, right? So while it's not wrong, it's also not right. So that's why we would never subtotal by the lowest level of detail. All right, so now since we're here and we're playing with subtotals, let's talk about the whole errors that you get from subtotals. This is at the bottom of our agenda, by the way. The errors are down here, but we're here. Let's just deal with it while we're at it, right? And also, let's talk about these two down. Everybody gets these two confused all the time, so let's get to that too. So this top box is when, right? The second and third box are what? The fourth box has nothing to do with subtotaling. It's grand totaling only. It stands apart. You can turn it on, you can not turn it on. It has nothing to do with the top three boxes. Okay? It just happens to be another form of totaling. So if I leave it set like this, like it is right now, I'm going to get an error. So I've said when you subtotal, I want you to subtotal all of these elements, right? But I have not said when to do it, have I? So it doesn't matter what I run it for. The time period is irrelevant. It's going to give me an error. It's going to say subtotal run total when not defined, right? I mean, I walked right into that one. And of course, vice versa is true, right? If I actually were to say, look, I want you to subtotal after each department, which is correct, and I say run that report, it's going to say, look, I know when to do it, but you didn't say what to subtotal, right? So those two, I think we can cross those two off, right? If you see that, you just didn't define correctly. Now, what is the difference between this one and this one here? Like, which one should I use, right? Let's just take a quick peek at it. And this one will work, so we will have to put a real date in. All right, there's our little target date range. Let's go back out and look at it. Okay, so let's zoom in a little bit here so we can see what's going on. And scroll down a little. Okay, so here we go. Well, that first one looks good. I mean, 4838 is both the subtotal and the running total. Let's go on to the next one. Okay, the next one, they're not the same in the next one, are they?
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the running total is meant to be, because I'm not on the right one. It keeps track as you go down, right? It's a cumulative.
Yeah.
So running totals they're dumb. Okay, I'm just going to say that. I'm just going to go out of there on a limb and say that they're kind of dumb, except when you're doing time. If you're doing months of the year, or if you're doing days of the months, or if you're doing hours in the day, anytime you're doing any time element, running total is very cool. But it's not really cool with departments. It's not cool with vendors. I don't care what this vendor plus that vendor is. They may be unrelated vendors, right?
Mhm.
So there's no point in run total. So mostly, honestly, I leave run total just turned off. I just leave this at the top. I don't bother with it in 90% of my reports, probably. Now, grand totaling, I pretty much always turn on grand totaling. I love grand totaling. You know, turn it on, don't turn it on. That's your call, but that's all it is. Above the line, it's in. Below the line is out. That's it. That's grand totaling at the bottom. Pretty easy. Okay, so what's this ranking thing? And anybody has any questions, always throw them in or just interrupt me. I got no problem with that. If I haven't explained something well enough, you're probably not the only one wondering what's going on. So, ranking then. Ranking. What is ranking? Now, we identify this sort while it is grouping primarily. Also, it does alphabetize things, right? That's what it does. Let's get rid of vendor code here. Let's make this report a little simpler, right? Back to being a department code report like it's supposed to be. So in this scenario here, if we, let's go back to our totals. So so by doing that, I left these things turned on, and I'm going to get these things turned off because, again, now I'm subtotaling by my lowest element, and that's dumb. So let's not mess with that. So let's go ahead and print this for that time period, and we will see what we have seen already a couple of times, that the department codes are alphabetical as they move down the screen, which is fine and nice, beautiful, not a big deal. We'll play with that in a second too, but let's go play with ranking first since we started down this path. So ranking, it can determine the order of the event, of the items that we're reporting on, right? That's what ranking does. Now it does not determine what's being ranked, right? That's sort. Sort determines the object, right? The grouping. But rank Now, it just so happens that first department is both alphabetically first, and it's also piecewise sold the most, right? Okay, fair enough. So anyway, down below that, we see the next departments ranked by pieces sold, which isn't necessarily by dollars generated, right? The second department there on the extended price column only generated $17,000. So it would not rank that high. It'd be in the first 5 or 6 probably, but it wouldn't be second. But it is second by pieces sold. So ranking, you have to run the report, right? And you have to get the values. Then ranking kicks in and says, okay, now that you have the values, I can step in and organize the items for you, right? Whereas sort groups them together and then alphabetizes them, right? But if you've got a rank, then rank steps in and supersedes the order, takes over and reorders the report based on a rank. Does that make sense? Kind of weird. Weird report politics. So, so ranking, you just turn it on, turn it off. When you're doing ranking, like if you're doing ranking by pieces, you probably want to consider having a secondary rank because it's easy to get a tie on pieces. It's not so easy to get a tie on dollars. Right, so there it is by, same thing exactly by dollars. Yeah, so that department that was number 2 now is number 5, which again, still a good department, no way, any way you slice it, but all right, so we'll turn off our ranking here and we'll slide down next. Now options, that's where all the cool stuff is. So if there's a question or a parameter or something that goes on in a report, it's in the options menu. The option menu has, and it's different on each kind of report. Like journals option menu has some similarities and some differences. Merchandise, again, some the same, some different. We're gonna have to look at all the options menus and toy around with them a little bit. But there's a few things in here that are consistent. The options menu is where we get to name the report, right? So that's kind of big. We get to set the security level. Not everybody uses security levels, but if you do, that's where you get to decide what level you're going to assign the report. A subtitle, don't need it, just a place to type some notes. But if this report has a secondary purpose that you want to explain to people, that's a good place to put it. You can just type a little line in there, it'll appear at the top of the report, and then when they look at the title, right beneath it will be a little subtitle, and they'll say, oh, that's why they ran this report. Now, date ranges, you can default a report to date ranges, right? So in here, we click into here, and we click the little button on the far right-hand side. Everybody hopefully is familiar with what's called dynamic date ranges. These are dynamic date ranges.
Mm-hmm.
So if I say I want 1 month ago, what will happen is Retail Pro will look at the system date down on the computer in Windows, and from that it'll extrapolate the date range I'm asking for. It'll say 1 month ago, so it'll give me August. So end of month reports, man, you set them this way. If the end of the month, the first day of the next month happens to fall on a Sunday and I'm not in the office and I run this report on Monday, which happens to be the 2nd, who cares? Looks at last month anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
So dynamic date range is very, very useful, very powerful. Some obvious things, you got question mark days, weeks, months, you got today, yesterday, you got the week to date, month to date, year to date, and the same thing for last year. And then you have wide open undefined. Very dangerous, by the way, for a sales report. That'll read all your history forever. If you want to always type it in, set it to fixed period. Now, if you set it to fixed period, it will be fixed on like 9/13 forever. But when you pop in here, and you've seen me do this already, right? You can just type in 6 whole numbers and press enter. It'll punctuate for you. So I could run this for whatever I want to run it for pretty quickly. I don't even know if I have data in that range. But so if I want to type it in every time and I expect to have to do that, then set it to fixed period and just let yourself go. Now, what happens if I set it to something like question mark months 1-1. Okay, what if I do that and hit save? If I print and I come up here and I say 0101 18. Well, this one's stuck, so I'm not going to dwell on this, but sometimes they don't stick. Sometimes when you run the report, the dynamic value will override your value. So it just didn't happen on this one, but be aware that if you run a report and the numbers don't look at the top of the report, right? Everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say look at the top of the report.
Mm-hmm.
On the top left corner, it gives you the whole, like, we're sorting by this, our filter date range was, it gives you the details, right? Look at the top left corner. If you see the dates are wrong, the dynamic date overrode your date. So next time when you're at runtime here, just click in there and change it to fixed period first, right? Just go like that, go like that. Then now you can click in here and use the calendar. And I hope everybody knows, yes, you can go forward and backward. Yes, you can pick a date, right? Hope everybody knows you can also pick months, right? I can just go like that and pick January.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to go like to get to August, I don't have to do that. It's not that bad, but you see where I'm going. I can go to the year and I can go to any year I want directly. Same with the month. But honestly, when I get to here and I go to fixed period, I click OK, and then I just type them in right here because it's just faster for me. Just 10 keyed in. All right, so the options here. Let's go back to the options. Let's toy around with a few of these. What is this? This is our filter, right? So here we can set any filter we have. Be careful, like here, like that one there. Let's hit save for a second. Let's go back up one notch. So in the second column, current filter, how many reports use the filter called sales? Well, more than I want to count, right? Like a lot, like most of those in this section, right? So if I were running this report or tweaking this report and I said edit filter and I went out here to criteria and I filtered this to only one vendor permanently, it would fix this report, but it would break the other 30 or 40 reports that use that filter, right? Very dangerous. So if you're going to tweak the filter, then what you're going to want to do is back up one more notch, go to filters, right? And then find the filter that you want to tweak, like it's been done here in the past, right? Copy it, give it a new name, right? Whatever, vendor XYZ here. Oh, no, let's pick something we actually saw, right? I can't actually make that work because it doesn't exist. Then highlight it, right? Go to edit and go to criteria. Now you can do whatever you want. That's your filter. Nobody else knows about it, right? So you can do whatever you want to do with that filter. That's your filter. Now what we're going to have to do is once we create this filter and save it, we're going to have to go back and connect the dots. So now here's my filtering menu. There's my new filter. I'm going to click back into reports and I'm going to click on edit. Now I could go find my report, but as you can see, I'm still highlighted on the same report, and you always are highlighted on the same report. So I click edit and go back to options. I need to connect the two different pieces here, don't I? I need to connect to my new filter. And now, in the future, if I wanted to tweak that filter, I don't have to go out to the filters and find it and do all that. I can just click edit filter. I could add a field. I could go to criteria, add some criteria, click save, back up, boom, run my report, right? So, anyway, orientation, that's just, putting the paper right side up or sideways, right? That's portrait or landscape. One of the few tools we have to make the report fit on the page, right? Only two tools, there's font size and portrait or landscape. That's what we got, right? Well, there's three, actually. There is a field size, too, for some fields, not all, but.
Oh, okay, good. Because I know there's some reports that we have that go to 2 pages and it's like usually just one field. So I'd like to be able to shorten that to get it onto 1 page.
Well, your best options for that is to first flip it to landscape, right? If it still doesn't fit, up here in the top, Do you guys ever play with
Okay.
this appearance button?
I've looked at it, but I've not tried to actually play with it because I don't know what
Well,
to do with it when I see it.
That's what everybody does. What I did is I went to appearance and I tried to double click that total, and it just stood there and stared at me, because you got to click this button over here,
Okay.
which is dumb. But now let's just go back around here. Let's see. This report here is going to be pretty small. Let's go out and let's try this with a report that I know will break. If we're going to do it, let's just pick something that we know is going to fail, and then let's see if we can fix it. That'd be the right way to handle this, right? So let's just say print, and let's go find a date range. All right, so that goes off the page.
Yeah, and that's actually
Right.
the kind of report I'm talking about that does that.
It always goes off the page. So let's go to edit, and let's go to options and see what's going on here. Now we're portrait. Let's say that I really like portrait, and I want to keep portrait if I can. Okay, So let's go to appearance, and let's take our column headings, and let's take them down to 7. Now while you're here, be nice to yourself. You know, do a little bold action here, right? Details, 7. Totals, 7. Bold. And like I said, be nice to yourself. Do something kind of cool with the totals.
Okay.
Now, do we even have totals? Let's go back to design totals. Let's see. We have just a grand total here. So what let's do is let's subtotal by store, just to make it more colorful, right? And we'll hit save, and we'll hit print, and we'll put our date range in. And we'll say OK. And it doesn't quite make it. We're close. Now I can make this fit. We could certainly go to landscape.
Yeah.
But usually 7 picks up about 3 columns. These are big columns, and we'll go look at that in a second too. But while we're here, let's bring this up where we can actually see the font. And let's scroll down. What do we got? 60 pages? Really? All right, I'm just going to skip to the last page. I'm not going to try and find the subtotal. Let's kill it community. You see what I mean about the blue there?
Right.
You fire that to a black printer, and you're not going to notice a difference at all, which is fine. But on the screen, it's really helpful as your eyes roll through the report.
Right.
And there's another thing I can help you with that on too, I'm thinking about. But let's get back to this sizing thing. So this is a sales journal. It's the basic sales journal that I've got here. Let's back up one notch though to the main menu. So the third thing, we got orientation of the page, we've got the font size, and I could keep going down. I could go down to 5 pitch, but everybody would hate me if I went to 5 pitch. So 7 pitch is pretty much where I get off that train. Anyway, here we have field links in the main menu. So there's a limited number of fields we can tweak.
Right.
Now, the big bang for your buck is the bottom there, like this one here. So extended price, extended cost, extended margin, extended discount, extended tax, all those are governed by that one right there. Anything that extends is governed by that one. But be careful with this. Now, I could say that in a year like 7, right, $1 million is a good number, right?
Yeah.
Except that 7 is not $1 million. 7 is only $99,000.
Right.
Because these are all decimal values. So any number you see here, take 3 off the top. So it's still, so we could drop this, like we go like that down. So let's go try that, and we'll say okay now on that one. Let's go back to journal. Let's go back and find that sales journal, which was right down here at the bottom. Sales receipt journal. Let's run it for the same time period. 90117. And let's see if we've squeezed our last column into our page. Now we did and we didn't. And I'm not sure this matters, but the S is popping over the edge. See that?
Right.
I'm not sure I actually need a subtotal in the journal. I just threw those in there for show, really.
Right.
Usually if you're running a journal, you're looking at a store, not more than one, for a very specific set of data. You're trying to find an audit trail, so, the subtotals are probably ignored anyway. But
Now, when I set the parameters like this for reports, if I did it on my computer, does that follow for everything, or do I have to do it on each computer I use a report on?
No, then that's the problem. Field length is global, and once you save a report in a certain fashion, that's global as well. So once you save that report, it'll be the same for everybody.
Okay.
Which is kind of where we get into some trouble on this field lengths thing. Like in here, you know, like honestly, we don't need 30 characters for the descriptive fields. But that ends up being a discussion. Like, is it 20? Is it 22? Is it 25? Is it 28? I mean, how much of the description do I need? The smaller it is, the more it fits on the page. The bigger it is, the more I know what the damn item is, right?
Right.
You certainly don't need 8 for size. You know, you probably get by with 5. I mean, 2XL is only 3 characters. But if you had something like 36 by 48 by 12, that's all 8.
Right.
So it depends what you're doing, what you're looking for. But yeah, you could save a lot of room on these. Typically, I see like somewhere in the 20 to 25 range. You know what I mean? For descriptive fields. This one's at 16. It's a 30 character field.
Right.
So.
Okay.
So anyway, that's the tools we have for those 3. Now let's pop back into this options menu real quick. There's a couple other things I want to point out, and then we'll go look at the other options menus to make sure we're all like on the same page. So let's go edit here, back to options. There's a couple of dangerous things in here. This one here is dangerous. Use net values. So if I sold 10 and 2 got returned, then we would expect the sales report to say 8, right? But if we do this, it says 12. Now, mostly I want it to say 8. But if I'm measuring productivity, like how many pieces got processed in this hour, I don't care if sales or return, it's still payroll. And then I actually want to go the other way.
Right.
Obviously, you don't want to consider like reverse transactions in a real sales situation, but maybe you do. In a journal, if you're looking at who screwed up, maybe I do want to see the corrections. And I don't want to see aborted sales, high security.
Right.
But maybe again, if I'm looking to find out who did what, and I want to see everything, then maybe I want to turn those on. Okay, so we're left with these 3 in the middle, which are actually very common. So record limit, this goes right back to ranking, right? What is this non-repeat mode? This is my outline format thing. So, and this is not a terrible report to do this. So if we said, like, actually this one doesn't matter. Earlier, when we ran this with a vendor code, it printed the department once. It did not reprint the department. That's non-repeat mode. So if, and we could do this again, this is so easy to do, but the only issue you run into with this is going to be if you're going to export it to Excel and do something with it in Excel, then you'll get in trouble using this. That's really it. So if we come back down one more. So print. Oh yeah, now we're stuck on a different date. Nice. I really should have just typed that date in there and saved it, right? I mean, oh yeah. So now it's using that that filter that I set up for this report again. So I screwed that up, didn't I? So let's go switch this back to the regular blank filter. And you want to leave the default filters blank. Honestly, it's a good move. Right, so there's non-repeat mode. But if I export this to Excel and I start sorting these records, then I can't sort them because I don't have the DCS on every line.
Right.
So that's where you turn this off. You'd say, look, I get that it's easier to read with non-repeat mode on, but I need it to be turned off because of what I'm doing. I need to have that populate every line. And that's what this will do. This will kick out and populate every line. And
Okay.
it's not as easy to read.
Well, yeah, but it'll make it easier for Excel, like you're saying.
Well, but in Excel now you have the full record all the time. So whatever you're doing, you can do it. You can sort it back into this order when you're done, right?
Right.
So yeah, it's a sweet feature. Definitely have to know about it. But anyway, all right. So data block, what's that? That's weird. So what if we turn that on? Line feed after data block. Data block is your level of detail defined in your sort. So in this report here, it just double spaces the report. I'm not really sure I'm on board with that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, occasionally I've used this if a buyer wants to have a little more space in the report and they want to like make notes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is cool for that. But where this really comes into play, let's back out of here. No, I don't care. So let's go back to our journal scenario here, and let's take a look at some options for journals. So here's your basic receipt journal, and we're creating one of these is what we're doing, but we're gonna do it ourselves so that we kind of get the idea of what's going on. So I'm gonna copy this, and I'm gonna say with item detail. Probably should put like 3 there or something because it's probably already got one that got that name. And so we'll take our thing here, we'll go to edit, and we'll go to our options menu. Now this options menu is a little different. So I've got some other switches here. Show item detail. So I'm going to turn that on. And then over here on the sidebar menu, I've got a button that says detail. So I can determine what, like I don't really need to see the cost in a sales journal. I might want the extended price. I probably want to see my description before my color. I might want description too, right? So this is where you edit the second layer in this report, this detail function. Now, let's go ahead and try this one. Let's see how this looks. So if we say print and we put our date range in. Oh, nice. Okay, that is every transaction with every item, but I'm going to tell you it's not easy to read.
No.
Okay, so let's take a look at these little dudes here. So I'm going to turn non-repeat mode off. I want it to repeat for every line, and I want a line feed between a data block. Now, what's a data block in this report? Data block in this report is one transaction.
Okay. Oh, because receipt journal, yeah.
Right. Where before it was one department, now it's a whole transaction.
Right.
So is that easier to read?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So the store number is now repeating. So it's a true outline format. When it hits the left-hand margin, it's more important than the records that don't hit the left-hand margin. And then we have a little space, a breather for our eyes to say, look, new transaction starting.
Right.
So yeah, that's where it starts to become really useful when you're trying to break things up a little bit, make it easier to read. And of course, we've got other detail, tax detail, and stuff here that I'm not going to turn on and not going to play with. But the rest of this is the same. That's really the trick with journals is that there's an item level there, and you can go play with that. Which brings us probably around to merchandise reports. And we should probably look at the, let's see if we got a good one here that we can play with. Saw some good ones earlier. Of course, now that I'm, in front of everyone, they're not manifesting on the screen. Okay, that's fine. All right, so let's see. I don't know what any of these reports are, but we could create one. All right, all right, so this is, this is a good one. This is kind of one of the ones I was looking for. So let's click edit here. Let's go to our options menu. Now the sort and the layout are the same here, right? So as I look at the layout, though, what's that? Well, we know it's cost, right?
Right.
But we don't know what the cost is for, right?
Right.
Now, as I said before, this is a merchandise report, so it's multiple data types. We can have up to 16 data types. So we could kind of assume that DT does stand for data type, and that that's the first data type, right?
Mhm.
And that those data types are defined in the options menu. So DT1 is on hand extended cost.
Oh, okay.
DT2 is sales.
Right.
And I could click add, and I could add another one. And I got 20 different elements here. Some of the items are falling off the screen there. But I could make this be min max on hand, purchasing on order. I could make it be transfers. I've got like with sales, I got receipts, I got returns, receipts, and I got net. Same with receiving and transfers. We're not going to add another one. So this one here, let's go ahead and look at what we're doing here. We've got on hand and we've got sales for the last 12 months, which probably, it may not be, it's probably, we got a little bit of, that goes back to 9/1. So we got, most of this year is going to be blank because this is old data. Fine, whatever, we don't care. Let's go back to the layout. So anybody have an idea? Let's see, the sort is DCS, okay. The layout is DCS with those value components. Anybody have an idea what this report's doing? So this is obviously on-hand cost. This is sold cost. This one here, this is on-hand, but this is percent to total or penetration, right? Like how big slice of pie does that get? So in other words, this department is getting 10% of your investment dollars to buy product. Is it 10% of your sales?
I see.
Right, that's what this answers. Now, if you're comparing cost dollars, then you got to do cost dollars for sales, right? You got to do apples to apples. Right. So there you see. Let's blow this up. We can actually see it maybe. So there you see a given department, and you see the actual on-hand dollars, and then you see the sold cost dollars, and you see the penetration there for on-hand. So that first department class is honestly almost 20% of the on-hand cost dollars they have in that, whoever this is. But it only represents for that time period 13, almost 14% of the sales. So you might have to question if you're over invested in that area.
Right.
Now, seasonality comes into play here, right? If this was pre-season and we're going into our busiest season, then I would expect it should look like that, right?
Right.
So obviously, anybody who knows their business will be able to interpret this report correctly based on where they are in their season. But you get what we've done here by putting DC and S in, by sorting those as separate elements and not sorting them as DCS, the one object, right? That allows us to subtotal by the D and see the penetration for the entire master department.
Right.
So you can do a lot with these. I mean, you can do, like, you could take these data types and make 12 sales ranges. 1 month 12 months ago, 1 month 11 months ago, right? You can make a trend report by department, by vendor, by whatever. You can see on hand and sold and on order and received. Nobody ever sees received, but you could do quite a lot with the merchandise report. It's very flexible, very powerful. And then once you have this thing here created, you just copy it, right? You go in the copy and you just change your sort and layout, right?
Right.
And of course you got to ditch the totaling, but
right.
I mean, once all the data types are built, you can just change the level so easy. All right, so let's go back and see what the heck we've accomplished here, right? So, well, I don't know what common changes are. Adding things, taking things away, right, I guess. Ranking, we've kind of covered ranking. We covered filters. We have not covered report groups. So report groups is kind of out there. A quick question out there was asked, are we recording this? And yes, we are recording this. And so, yes, there will be a video link to follow. What happens is I convert it, and then I send it over to Service. Service sends out a link to if we post it. We don't let the GoToMeeting people post it. We post it ourselves on our own, and we send a link out to everybody. So, but we do need to talk about report groups. Is there any questions we have about like basic report building, or is there a report we wanted to have built or see? Not seeing anything in the chat right at the moment. All right, fair enough. We can kind of move on, and we'll circle back to that if somebody has some. So report groups is, and there's a lot in this one, man, is just the ability to group more than one report together. So if I click new, I can give this the group name up here, right? Whatever I want to call this, end of month on hand, and then I have all 4 tabs down here. So I've got journals and merchandise and summaries and lists, and I can go into any given section. Here's my department summary that we've been hacking around. I can move that above the line. I could add a vendor summary if I wanted. And then I could click save, and I could back up now. And if I wanted to take that new thing and I wanted to just double click it here, I could run these. Now, if you're running these things as a group, the wise person would have gone to those reports ahead of time and edited the filters and the date ranges, right? You would want to set these so you don't have to, like I could click in here and go to properties and set the date range, right?
Mhm.
And then I could click OK and go to the next one and go to its properties. Kind of a lot of work. So if you know you're always going to run these at the end of the month, well, you could just dynamically set these to look at the last month, right? I mean, save yourself the hassle. So this is a report group. It then runs both reports. Boom, boom. Escape off this one. The other one's right there. Now, report groups have other options, though. That's my primary purpose of a report group right there. But they allow us to also schedule them. So let's go back into edit here. Let's go to summaries. Let's get rid of one of these. Let's hit save. Let's go back around to our report group. No, next contestant, back to summaries, back down to that thing so that we don't end up, I don't know how much data is here, but I don't want to find out. So we're going to go ahead and say we want this to be a fixed period. And we're just going to put in the period we want, 090117, 093017. All right, so that's just carved in stone now, right?
Mhm.
All right, so that report's in the report group. And let's go back to the report group for a sec. And the report group is a funny name, who cares? But on the far right-hand side of that bottom line, we can see that there's a file name that is 22, basically. It's 6 zeros and a 22, right? So let's go bring this down. Let's bring this down. Let's bring this back up. Let's bring this down like that. And let's slide this over. Okay, so there's that 22 there, right? So if we go right click and we say a new shortcut, we browse this to, I could have typed it in. I'm just not feeling like typing it in right now. So if I browse into Resale Pro 8 and into Resale Pro, there's my reports.exe, right? So I can run reports, and there are very specific command line parameters. And so as we can see the bottom of the screen there, that this report group is 22. So what we're going to say is /PGS. That means print the group to screen. Okay? And then we're going to put a space. We're going to put in that number. Right, so I'm saying print the group to screen from that group. Let's say next, and let's say department summary report. And let's say, oh, finished. Okay, so there's my shortcut. Now I'm going to close reports because you can't have reports open. And we're going to try this one. We're double click it. It just ran the report, didn't it? And in like 5 seconds or something, it goes away. So, knowing that now, we could schedule that, right? We could actually have a scheduler come on and use the same command line parameter. Now, we're going to modify this. We're going to say :PDF, for instance. Now, let's just make sure we know what's going on. Let's go out here to C drive, and let's go down to Retail Pro 8, R Pro. Okay, the print folder. The print folder is where these things go. Date modified. So that one there was modified today, wasn't it? So that is that report I just ran, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So can I open this? No, I can't open this, by the way. But, you know, of course, we're going to try anyway because, right, that's what we're here for. So, well, I don't know what the hell that is, right? Actually, I do know what that is. That's XML. So that's the raw form that Retail Pro stores reports in. It's a print language so that Retail Pro knows how to print it. Now, that being said, in here, I could go inside. I don't know why we don't have this on the main menu, but anywhere inside, I could go to any of these areas. We're going to go to inventory. We're going to click review, and that one right there, right, that has the current date on it, is there in the review page because we ran it. It got saved. Retail Pro knows where it is, right? I could go ahead and click open. There it is. Now I could export this out, couldn't I? So just by running these, it saves them, but it saves them in Retail Pro language, right? So now, of course, we're going to go back out here and we're going to delete that. So that report that I just ran that was sitting here all pretty is gone. There's nothing in that print folder any longer. So we're going to go try it again now, right? So I modified the shortcut, right? I modified it to export this as a PDF. So we're going to double click this again and see what happens. All right, so it just created 2 files now, right? So it's created the same one that we had before, except it's got a 1110 timestamp on it, right? And then it also exported it to PDF for me. So those commands that we put in there, right, can be used in 3 places. So obviously one of them would be a shortcut on your desktop, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could also put those into what's called the user menu INI, and then the last one will be a scheduler, and we'll do all 3. So let's go see what this user menu INI thing is, right? So if we go up one directory into the RPro folder, Has anybody ever played with user menu? Anybody know what I'm talking about yet? So this is access to Retail Pro's main menus, basically, okay? So what I would want you to notice in here is that some of these things that you see and that you think are native buttons in Retail Pro, they're not native buttons in Retail Pro. Retail Pro wrote 2 executables, then they linked them together in this user menu INI. So the SRO button, the Price Manager button, they're not native. They were added manually. So I could, if I wanted to, let's say I want to run that kind of report for today, not for last year or whatever, but I want to have this report and I want to be able to click it on the active receipt screen, right? So I could go in here and I could say, I could call whatever I want. So the first part of this here in this thing, this part right here, that's going to be the name of the button. So I could say here, you know, daily read, right? Whatever I want to call it, right? Then I could say equals, but now I got to follow a very, very specific, like the grammar here, the punctuation, I guess, is critical. So notice that down here that you've got a quote around the entire phrase, and that each piece has its own quote. Okay, well, I can follow that. All right, so what we're saying here is that quote, quote, reports.exe, end quote, quote, with a /PGS, end quote, quote, with a 00000022.rgp, end quote, and end quote, right? So as long as I follow the examples that are already in here, right? Let's see if it works. Let's go File, Save. And let's take Retail Pro. Of course, now Retail Pro is already open, so
Yeah.
you got to know that it's not going to refresh real time, right?
I think they go in our office, don't they?
I think so.
So we're going to go ahead and sign back into Retail Pro here. And we're going to go to a receipt. So new receipt, pan screen.
We got caught on the rug. Sandy came to pick up the rug, one of the rugs today.
You tell her?
Uh-huh.
What'd she say?
I don't care.
Yeah, that's what Manny, she said, what am I going to tell her if she comes to pick them up?
You tell her the truth.
Then it's going to be my ass.
Yeah, it's really her ass. Hi.
All right, so
I just got back from my wallet.
Oh, how was it?
It was good. I wanted to share. Are you busy?
Oh, this is a good time to talk.
all right, so here's our button. Now it just happens to be falling off the screen a little bit, so I'm just going to get rid of some other stuff here to make it come up a little higher, right? We don't really need all in real life we would need all these things, but kind of need tender. I'm going to have to say tender is probably one we don't want to get rid of. But we'll get rid of some stuff so we can just see it. There we go, that's fine. So there's our daily read button. I just created it. Let's see if we click it, what it does. It runs the report, pops up on the screen. Now, when the thing runs through a command line like that, it is governed by the command line. So it's just going to pop up like that and go away. But of course, if we want to see it in greater detail, we just click review, right? Go find it in the list and open it back up. Now it's just open and we can zoom in and move around and take a look at it any way we want to. And typically we wouldn't run a report this big. In a daily read, I would do maybe my departments, but probably just a store. Probably just be a one-line report. Just show me where we are. Boom, done. I don't need to go open it then because it doesn't take me 5 seconds to read one line. All right, so that worked out pretty well. Let's talk about like the scheduler, right? So the scheduler, if you're in Retail Pro and you go to Tools, you can use the Retail Pro scheduler, which is right there. If I click that, it opens it up down at the bottom. And we would then go in there like that. And actually, we've already got one in there. That's pretty handy. Let's go ahead and say right-click on that and go to Properties. And what we see is very similar, right? Now in here, you know, we have to say where the report's executable is and what's the start in folder. And then we have to say what our command line parameter is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this one's exporting to Excel and it's running group number 16, right?
Right.
And then up here on the top, we have to go schedule it. So monthly on the first day of each month, you know, occurs at 12 a.m. or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could also do this in Windows. So if we go down to the Windows Start button and we type in task, it should find the task scheduler.
Mm-hmm.
This is Windows version of the same thing. And then we could go in here, and if you want to create like a Retail Pro folder, you have to put your focus on like that level there, and then it'll actually let you create a new folder, which is pretty cool. And then in here, these tasks have nothing to do with what we're doing. This is actually a different task for a different kind of report, version 9. But if we right-click this here and say New Task, in here you got the name and stuff on the general, you got the time on the trigger, and you got the actual running the report part is considered an action. So it's a little bit more, like, it looks more cryptic here, I'm just going to say, but it's not. I could say run EOM report V8 here, right? I could come down and say run at the highest privileges, run whether we're logged in or not. Those are pretty obvious. Triggers, new. Okay, I want it to run monthly on, you know, the first, right? Select all, every month at whatever time in the morning, right? 5 a.m. And then OK, and then under action, you'd say new add an action, and it would be start a program, and we would have to go put, you know, in this case, it's C:\retail aid /rpro /reports.exe. And of course, the start in is surprisingly rpro. Maybe not so surprisingly. And then down here, this is where we would put our /PGS, right? Space.
Okay.
So pros and cons of Windows Task Scheduler versus Retail Pro Task Scheduler, right? Like, which one's better? Why use one over the other, right? This one here will run unattended, whether you're logged in or not. So if the company requires you to log out of Windows every night, which many companies are now doing it, we're doing it. It's the right thing security-wise, right?
Right.
This will still run your reports. The con, if there's a con on this one, if it doesn't run the report, you won't know it right away. You'll maybe know it because it won't be where you're expecting to find it. It won't be in that print folder, right?
Mhm.
But you won't know it. I don't really need to say that. This little dude here, if it fails, it'll be flashing red on your screen, but you have to be logged in to Windows. If you're not logged into Windows, it won't run. That's pretty much it. In version 9, we started by using the version 9 scheduler. It's not good, okay? They did not do a great job on that. We went back to the version 8 scheduler, which works like a champ. I'm going to tell you, the version 8 scheduler rocks. That scheduler, it's a standalone scheduler. You can just copy it out of RPro. You could put it on anybody's PC. You could put it in the root drive or the C drive. It would run. It would schedule. It would work. But it doesn't run if you log out. So we figured out how to make it run when you're logged out. But when you run it that way as a service, you lose the visibility. You can't tell if it ran or not. So what's the point? Just use the Windows Task Scheduler right at that point, right?
Mhm.
So that's how we graduated to the Windows Task Scheduler in version 9. Version 8, I mean, if you don't have the security requirements to get out of Windows every night, then yeah, use the version 8 scheduler. It is rock solid. It's a beautiful little piece of software. But we all know the direction everything's going. It's more and more secure, not less and less. So, so those are the tricks really that I have for you as far as the scheduler and how to use them, and the user menu INI, and that user menu INI thing is actually going to be not scheduling a report per se, but how to edit the user menu INI is the feature of the month for October, and that will be coming out in the little packages that we send out with the statements and all that stuff. And I actually have a question here. It says, can you control what folder the report group saves to? And I'd like to say yes on that, Rachel. I really would like to say yes, but the answer is going to be no. In version 8, the answer is no. In version 9, and I'm not plugging 9, I'm not saying upgrade. The upgrade question is a much bigger question than being able to schedule a report. Okay. But as a part of the version 9 thing, you can schedule them and have them go anywhere you want. In fact, in version 9, you don't have to put it in a group either. You can schedule a report directly, and you can define every aspect of how you want it to run and where you want it to go and how you want it to be saved and all that stuff. And I could go show you, but you probably don't care. So I don't want to, drag you through muck here that you don't care about. That would be unwise. But reports change a lot. So in thinking about version 9, the pro to version 9 is that the power in a Crystal report, it's a lot more powerful. You can do formulas, anything you can do in Excel, anything that you do in 8 and export to Excel and do the same equation over and over again each month. We could have that in version 9 already. We could just do that for you. But the downside is the quick draw, shoot from your hip, build a report in 5 minutes. That ain't happening in version 9. In version 9, you have to sit down with Crystal and build them, or have me build them. And you have to buy a copy of Crystal. Crystal is not part of Retail Pro. Now, I got to say that in the long run, really, most of us use, 12 reports? It's nice to go and grab those and build a report on the fly when I need to, but the reality is in the course of a year, I might do that a few times, a handful of times. And there's probably a report I could have ran that would have given me that answer without designing it. So having reports that can do exactly what you want them to do, that's the reason you would consider, from a report standpoint, that's the reason you'd consider going to version 9, is that they can do anything you want them to do. Let me qualify that statement. There's nothing that V9 reports can't do. There may be things that are cost prohibitive to do. So you have to get a programmer to write an SQL query if it's not in the normal realm of what V9 reports do now, which isn't terribly expensive actually, but it could be a couple $1,000. On the other hand, if it gives you exactly what you want and it saves you hours of payroll and time, actually it could pay for itself very quickly. But this isn't a V9 reports training, and I don't have to drag you through all that. So unless somebody really needs to see something like that, I'm not gonna go out there and show you that. I'll focus on the task at hand. So we're actually doing well on time. We have a large block of time here. We have another 35 minutes, but I don't have a great deal more on my outline here to go over, I don't think. Nothing to print at the bottom, troubleshooting here. Check your filter criteria. I'm just going to say, it's always the filter criteria, right? We already talked about run total, subtotal, what and when, and odd data. Odd data, I can tell you what odd data is. It's that your sort and your layout don't match. That's what that is, almost always. People add something to the layout. It says that this is the number for that, but then they go run another report and it doesn't match because the other report's actually built correctly and it's actually giving you the true number. In the report where you just added that thing on the fly and did not put it in the sorting, it's giving you some erroneous number. That's always what that is, pretty much. So, so is there any report, though, that somebody has tried to make that have not been successful in making anything like that? Let's see. I'm trying to think if there's any report that would be really useful. You know, I could probably toy around with like a simple report that wouldn't take too long. I don't want to keep everybody. I'm sure you guys got. I know in retail you got so much extra time, but you know, I'm just going to get nuts and bolts here and play with operational stuff. And maybe we'll just give a little compare and contrast to some of what I can do in V9 just as a end results type situation only. But this report here, I don't find this report useful. I was in retail. I was a store manager for Marshalls in Las Vegas. God, a long time ago now, but I don't think retail's changed that much. An hourly summary for this month, that looks at when you're most profitable, when you sell, what hour you sell the most stuff, right? That's good. I'm for that. But man, I got to tell you, a Wednesday was not a Saturday, not when I was in retail. So I'm going to click copy up here. We're going to say an hourly summary by weekday, right? And click OK, and it's going to insert our report for us. We're going to highlight that, go to Edit. We're going to go right to the sort, and we're going to say that we would like to have weekday, right, be in this report.
Mm-hmm.
Now we want to group it. How do we want to group it? Do we want to group it by hour, then by weekday, or by weekday, then by hour? That'd be by weekday, then hour.
Weekday, yeah.
Yeah, weekday is absolutely the right answer. So now, of course, we added weekday, so we got to go add weekday out here, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure I need all this stuff here. Like, I probably would just drop this and this. I don't know that I really care a great deal about that. I mean, I do care about the discounts, but, you know, for my money, I could see the discounts down here. Like, if the margins are low, the discounts are high. I mean, that's what's going on here, right? So
what's the difference between the extended price and the extended original price, the one you deleted?
Okay, what is the difference? So, extended original price. I'm buying something for $100. So you give me a discount of 20%. So I only pay $80.
Right.
So what's the difference between $100 and $80?
Okay.
Well, the difference would be the discount dollars.
Right.
If you want to get technical. But
right.
But from my point of view, the original price or the extension of the original price, that's pie in the sky.
Okay.
It didn't happen.
Right.
Right? I'm looking for productivity. I'm looking for what happened here.
Gotcha.
Like what we actually did. And what I'd like to have in this report, and I can't get in this report, this is one of the walls in version 8 reporting, is transaction counts are a bitch to get. I don't know if you've figured that one out yet, but there's 3 or 4 reports. We can go look at those too in a minute if you want. But let's go down and finish our task at hand here. So I would then want it to, I'd want to subtotal it by the weekday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I probably want to see a grand total at the bottom. And then I would want to run this for an even time period. Now, what I mean by an even time period is the same number of Saturdays as there are Wednesdays. So if I run this for the 1st through the 30th, that's not divisible by 7, is it? So
right.
2 days are getting an extra day in that range. So what I would typically do with this one is I would say, give me like either 4 or 6 weeks, right?
Uh-huh.
And we're going to have to go back like, I don't know, let's say 50 weeks. What does that give us? So maybe we'll go back a little more. We'll say 55 55. Okay, maybe 53. Okay, that's in the range, right, that we were running before. I got kind of lucky with that one. So now we'll go ahead and say save on that, and we'll say print. And now what I've left off here in this analysis, which I may choose to leave off, by the way, but what I've left off here is the store, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if this, and I think this data does have more than one store. So this would be looking at the company, right? Which in actuality isn't probably the best thing to do. What I probably should be looking at would be looking at each store separately, right? So I could run this and I could have it sort by store, right? Or I could filter to the store. And if I filter to the store, then I could run it for one store, I could run it for another store, then I could run it for all stores, and I could compare, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The aggregate, the company against the stores. But what I really need for scheduling purposes is I need to know what one store is doing, right? So that just gives you like a bell curve of what's going on. Now this is times 4, right? I got 4 weeks mixed in here. So that isn't the number I normally do at 10 o'clock on a Sunday. That's 4 times the number I do at 10 o'clock on a Sunday. However, if there's one bad Sunday or one really good Sunday in there, it's only a quarter of the data.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm looking at here is the bell curve, right? I'm looking at the pattern being created by the numbers. Like, when is my peak time? Which is clearly like 10 o'clock through 2 o'clock right there, right? After that, it's coasting downhill.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of useful. Now in version 9, things we could do in version 9 that we can't do here. I can get a transaction count. I could also get, I could do math. So I could divide that number by 4, couldn't I?
Mm-hmm.
So I could tell you what the average per hour is in a version 9. Now I've done that in some reports, some of them I haven't. But just for yucks here, since we're all just having fun at this point, and we're pretty much done with the basic gist of what we're trying to achieve today. We'll just go in here and see if I even have this. And if I do, I probably have completely different data, so we won't be able to do an apples to apples thing. But we have a version of this report that we made, and I haven't put the averages in all of them yet. But if we just hop in here and go down to the bottom here. Oh, right. So weekday by hour, right? So run this, and my data in here is going to be really crappy at best. So I'm just going to fire it off because, like in this one, all I have here is okay. Let's just do this then. Close. Let's at least actually ask for a store that would have some data. Maybe that's a good start, right? So let's just go right there and just do that and try this here and see if this works out better for me. All right, so not outstanding. Let's see if we can find a day that's a little better than that. All right, there we go. So this is the same report, except that what the difference in V9 and V8 here is that that I have the ability to see the number of sales, right? So now I can see average units per transaction, right? Now this data we're looking at, you got to know this is a sandbox, right? I don't actually ring sales on my computer. I'm just designing reports and throwing in crap sales that I can just use as fodder for feeding the reports, right? That's it. That's all this is right here. So these numbers aren't anywhere near real. So, but you see that with Crystal reports, we can do a lot more. So we've got the extended price, and we've got average extended price per transaction, and the percent of total, the penetration, like which hour of the day gives us the most business, right?
Right.
That's just because we have, well, you know, SAP owns Crystal and licenses Crystal, and but before that was Business Objects. They wrote it, and it's been the SQL, the ODBC, like Open Database Connectivity type database reporting tool for well over a decade, and it's pretty powerful. So we can do a lot more with that tool than we can. Not to say that V8 reports don't rock, because they do. for what they accomplished in the time that they were written, they've been a phenomenal reporting tool for quite a few years. I have to say I've been very pleased with them. So, I love V8 reports. I got to tell you, I was sorry to see them go when V9 first came out, and we did not understand Crystal. I very much longed for the V8 reports engine, and V8 overall, V8 both reports and V8 itself. The thing it has up on V9, hands down, is it's nimble. It's very, very nimble. I could copy the entire V8 directory to a different computer and just run it. As long as I just dot my I's and cross my T's on the path, make sure it's sitting in the same place. But if I copy it from one hard drive to another hard drive, it's just going to run. I don't need to do anything. And the same thing in V8 reports. V8 reports are just so incredibly nimble. I can just go in here and just build a report on the fly. And in fact, when my client said that, he said, I was on site and he said, you know, the thing I love about V8 reports is I'll have a vendor in my office. They'll be asking me why I'm not buying something. They'll be trying to sell me on something. And I'll just be quietly designing a report. I'll click print, and then I'll escape off it. I won't even save the report. And I'll just say, pick up that thing on that printer over there. And that'd be why I'm not buying these today. So it's a powerful tool. V8 reports is amazing. You have all the power right there at your fingertips. You don't need Crystal. You don't need a secondary editing tool. The only limitation, and we'll go examine this since we got another minute here. The only limitation is the transaction issue that I mentioned a minute ago. So if I want number of transactions, can I get them? The answer is yes, you can, but only in limited places. So if I scroll down here and look at, we're in summaries. Yes, we're in summaries. If I get down here to this here associate or cashier performance report. Now, you got to be careful with the associate performance report, okay? So let's start with the cashier performance report. And let's just pick our target data range, right? We've got to be apples to apples consistent here. So this goes out and finds cashiers, and it shows me the number of sales they made, the number of units they made, the discount dollars, the price dollars, the margin dollars, cost dollars, units per transaction, right? And dollars per transaction. So yeah, here I can see the number of transactions that this person made, 195. Blow this up a little bit. 195. Number of units they sold was 347. So over here on the right, the units per transaction, 1.78, and average dollars per sale, 45.18. We go to the end, we can compare that 1.78 and 45.18 to the grand total here. So he's pretty much average for units, a little under in dollars. Right? So this report here will give me that critical piece of information, but it only gives it to me by cashier. So if I wanted to run this for the store, I would need to filter it for the store and look at the grand total, right? Mm-hmm. That's the only way to do it. Now this report here, we copied reports earlier and we made other reports. So maybe I want to make this report and actually have it filtered for each of my stores. That'd be kind of handy, wouldn't it? Oh, wait a second. It's a canned report. It can't be copied. So there are specific reports. They're all in the 51. So the file name on this one you see on the far right-hand side is UC00051.sit. Anything between 51 and 100, well, 51 and 99, are canned. They're all canned reports in that range. If it's below 50, if it's like 20, like the one right beneath it, it's just installed. Retail Pro just installed it. You can edit it, but edit it at your own risk, because if it was installed once, it could be installed again, right? So if I wanted to make a version of that customer bestseller, the wise individual would copy that and would make their own version of it, and then they would hack that up, right? That's what they would do. Mm-hmm. Now, if you copy your own version, you'll notice that the numbers on those file names, they start at 999 and work their way down. So anytime you see a number in the 900 range, that's an end user defined report. If it's not of no use to you anymore, delete it. It won't come back. If you delete one of these down here, it'll come back. Retail Pro has backup copies in in the reports directory. And when you launch reports, it evaluates to see whether they're all there. Anything it doesn't find, it takes the backup copies and regenerates them. And you could go and find them if you were going to actually delete these out, like seek and search and destroy, like in the files. It would just be in the RPRO directory in the Win report directory, the Win RPT directory. But be careful, there's more than one file, so you'd have to search for that number. Like you'd have to say search for things that are they'd both be an SIM like file, but they would not start the same way. So you'd say *20.sim, like asterisk being a wildcard, and you would find there's an O file and a U file. And if you don't copy both files, if you're trying to copy the files to another store, for instance, you got to copy them both. Now, if I'm copying reports, what I would do, what I always do, and I always found to be very successful, so I'm going to have to say, if you're copying reports, I don't cherry pick. I don't go in and cherry pick out one report. I just go down and take the entire Windows reports directory. Like I set my model reports up at one store. I get them perfect. I take the reports directory and the filter directory. I copy these things here to a flash drive. I can take them over to the other side. I rename the ones at the other side and paste them in. Done. All the reports are exactly the same at both stores. If you want the report groups, in addition to those, they're in the GRP folder. And there you can see the actual report groups, and there's the one we made today right there. So copying the GRP, the WinFLT, and the WinRPT folders, again, rename the folders on the other side. Don't delete them, because if you screw something up and you need to recover it, right, you won't be able to do that if you delete it. So just rename the existing folders, paste in the ones from the master location, and then let them run and see if everything blows up or if it works just fine. That's how you copy reports over in V8. But you could, if you wanted to, like I said, you could go down and try and cherry pick that report out. So in here, you'd have to say search for asterisk 20.sim would be that customer report. And of course, it's finding the O and the U. It's also found the D and the R. The D and the R are that Retail Pro backup file that I told you about. You also find them in the last run. You'd only find actual report files in the last run. You would not find D and R files. But this report is actually that file there and that file there. Those two files are that report. Those are executable in the reports menu. And if you just go copy the U, and everybody does this, by the way, they see the file name there, they think just copy that file, drop it in the other store, we're good. Then when you launch reports, you get a file error that says this report's corrupted. It's not corrupted, it's missing its other half. All right, so when will it regenerate? Excellent question. It regenerates when you launch. You guys probably have seen this. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but when you go into reports, it would regenerate right at that moment. That's when it would regenerate. At that moment, it looks in the directory and finds those and regenerates them. So every time you launch reports would be the answer. Good question, though. And of course, now if you were to delete the R and the D files and the O and the U files, it would not be able to regenerate, right? You would lose the audit trail, wouldn't know that the report wasn't there because the R and D file's gone. Now, the minute you go and do a maintenance pack, you know it's going to come back, right? So, you know, you're just swimming upstream. If you really wanted to hide reports, right, the right way to hide reports is not to delete the files, but to change the security level and then go into Retail Pro security permissions and take away that level, right? By default, all the reports are at the admin level. Some of them are at level 1, and there's a few, 3 or 4 at level 4. There's nothing at level 2 or 3.
Right.
Right? Most of us don't even use our levels. right? So we could say, look, I'm going to use level 3 when I want to park a report where no one can see it and I don't want it to be in my way anymore. I'm just going to go in and edit it to be level 3. Then I could go into security and say nobody has access to level 3, right?
Mhm.
And then just move it over and it's done. It's out of your way. It's not coming back. You have to log on with a user right that could see that level 3, which obviously the admin, sysadmin, would always be able to do.
Right.
But that's more productive than trying to, you're just treading water on the other one, deleting files that are going to come back either today or next time you do a maintenance packet. You're never going to win that one. You win the battle, but you won't win the war. So, well, all right then. If we don't have any other questions, I know we still got a little time, but I mean, I don't have much else to present probably as Retail Pro. I got one more thing on reports. It's a thing I'll fill in at the end. Right here at the top on the main menu of reports, the options menu. Nobody ever looks in here. So this is worth like 30 seconds to go through this one real fast. There's some good stuff in here. By default, the date ranges are messed up. By default, I believe it's like this. So by default, merchandise reports are using order date on order values. When you uncheck that, you start using ship date. That's the only real date. I mean, same thing here now. By default, it uses order date, and this is not checked. And so you have to check it for sales orders. I don't know why they didn't write the switch the same way. They wrote it exactly opposite of the switch above it. So you want to uncheck the top one for POs and check the SO one. Because the ship date is typically the only real date. The day we made the order is not really relevant, and the day that we're going to cancel it is not really relevant, right? So the only real date is the ship date. Right. Ignore non-inventory items if you want to have the merchandise report. Ignore them. I'm not sure I do. Same thing in a summary. I mean, a non-inventory item, the point is you can sell it and it doesn't change inventory, right? I still want to know how many I sold. Like if I'm tracking like gift wrap or waxing skis, yeah, I still want to know how many times we did that, right? This one here is a very interesting one here. Record limit as percentage in sales reports. So in that ranking thing we talked about, then we kind of peeked in the options menu at the record limit. That changes the record limit to be, instead of the top 10, the top 10%. I think we can skip the whole calculate Korean tax values. And show report details, I guess, would turn off the ability to show report details, but I've never turned that off. So, but again, this is worth like what, a minute? It's good to know these are here. And then this one here is, I think this one is super cool. This one was added really late in the development of version 8, like right before they sort of launched V9, and they added that as it was actually like what they call a web tac. It's like a ticket, where somebody puts in, hey, we need this feature, and so it ended up getting approved, and they just added this switch so you could toggle it between functionality. So if you want a top 10 report, and then you want a top 10% report, you actually have to turn this off and on to get it to go to work that way. All right, so anyway, I think that's about it. Nobody else has any other questions. I'm going to say thank you very much for joining us today at the Big Hairy Dog webinar. And, come back again, send us feedback. I will convert this thing and get it over to service. They will send you all guys, everybody a link. So anybody who didn't attend will still get a link, and they can watch, but they just can't participate, right? They missed the boat on that one. And again, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate everybody who participated in the chat and vocally. It makes it a lot better for everyone when we get a little feedback and we dig into issues and we find out real results. It's just a much better webinar for everybody concerned. All right. You guys have a good rest of the day, good weekend, and we'll talk to you next time.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.